Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cosmic Conversations. I'm your host, Sheila Seppi, and I want to thank you for joining us for this episode on the Conscious Awakening Network. Now, if you haven't already done so, please visit the consciousawakeningnetwork.org, sign up to be on our mailing list, and if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you for joining, and please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're watching us a little bit later, if you're not watching us live, but on replay, we want to thank you so much for joining us. Now, tonight, our special guest is Raquel Spring, and Raquel is a fourth generation astrologer and a mystic, and she stands as a leading luminary in the emerging paradigm of the Aquarian consciousness. Now, she's based outside of Arizona, in case you want to go see her, and she leads numerous people through their visionary contributions within the emerging communities all around the world. And tonight, she's going to talk with us about deciphering the solar eclipse of April. Now, this is a cosmic event that's poised to reshape our path and redefine the trajectories from which we are moving forward and into from this moment on. And tonight, together, we will explore this landmark that promises to be a turning point. But before we do that, I want to tell you a little bit more about how you can reach out to Raquel. She has a website, raquelspring.com. She's author. If someone could please go on to mute, please. Then she's also an author. She has the book, The Mentorship Paradigm for Embodied Astrology. Now, you can find that on her website as well, and then you'll go to the mentorship program. But welcome, Raquel. I'm so happy that you are here with us tonight. I am. When I was thinking about this eclipse, it's like, oh, I hope you had the availability to speak with us tonight because I love the way that you bring forward all of the information you have to share. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I am overjoyed at being here tonight.
Oh,
I'm
well, thank you.
so glad. Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, before we dive into tonight's topic, I'm wondering if you could share a little bit more about yourself. Tell us a little bit about the fourth generation that you're emerging from as an astrologer and a mystic. And then I would love for you to dive straight into talking about, everybody's talking about the eclipse, but there's a lot more to this eclipse than just the moon and the sun and the earth. Okay. We're in this eclipse time, but there's very specific celestial alignments or, configurations that's really indicating this cosmic event. And I am curious how they really influence us and our lives. But I want to hear and share you with everyone else. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. So I want to just take a moment and say thank you to you, Shayla, and to everyone who is tuning in tonight. The theme of our talk today is going to be on the Aries solar eclipse that's coming up on April 8th. It's a huge topic. I've been doing an event every day of this week. I was just telling Shayla because it's such a big topic at the moment. So I'm very, very grateful to be here and share this information with you tonight. So my name is Raquel Spring, and I am a fourth generation astrologer, at least 4 generations back. We're definitely multi-generational, and astrology runs deep in our lineage. And as I like to say, and in my soul, I feel like I've been doing this for lifetimes as well. So I'm from Brazil, and I've been here in the US for about 7 years now. 7 years, but I've been speaking English for a long time, so that's why I don't have much of an accent. But Portuguese is my first language. And now that I told you, you'll notice my English sometimes. You'll notice the accent. But yeah, so I've been working with astrology for some time now. I do have a school where I teach how I do it. And I also have the mentorship program, which is a place where we get together live twice a month to talk about the energies of the month. So it doesn't matter when you join, you can join at any time. This is an ongoing gathering that we have where I share the astrological perspective, much like I'm going to share here. But this is just a little taste. In the mentorship program, we go really deep twice a month. And then I have the weekly, I do follow-ups with audios where I share an audio every week about the astrological and spiritual energies for the week ahead. So today I live my passion, I breathe my passion. And when I tap into astrology, I really am tapping into more than just a system. I am tapping into energies as they are happening and watching them translate through us and the human events of our world. And it's incredible. It's surreal to be an astrologer from Raquel Spring's perspective. It is amazing. So I consider it an honor and a joy every time that I get to share that with any of you. So you're going to see that I'm very passionate about anything astrology related. But, the events of now, the events of our time now are so exciting to watch unfold. I can definitely speak as an astrologer from an astrological perspective because we see these energies build way before they happen, years before they come to be. And it's incredible to see the patterns and then watch how the energetic waves flow through them and how they manifest themselves. Because as an astrologer, we can have an idea. We know the quality of the energy of what we're looking at, but we don't necessarily know exactly how. We didn't know exactly that it was going to be COVID or a virus or this or that or the other, but I knew that the world was going to stop. There was going to be a halt to our tracks. And so to watch it happen, and I remember even when COVID began, I had many friends, whenever something big happens, everybody calls the astrologer, what's going to happen next? So I had many people call me and ask me about the 2-week lockdown. Is it really true that we have to be in lockdown for 2 weeks? When is it going to go back to normal? I looked at the astrology and I said, try a few years. Things are not going to go back to the way they were anytime soon. And, as a matter of fact, they never have gone back to the way they were before, and they never will. So it's really incredible to understand from a greater perspective what is happening and to know that really what was happening and still is happening is a massive shift of cycles. And you can look at these as these, how do you call those wheels of the clock, right? When they turn and it's just like, it's time. It's time for the wheel to turn and keep going. So we've reached one of these very crucial stages of the wheels turning. And these are the wheels of time and space. That's why we can map them out through astrology. So when we zoom out and we look at the greater picture, we see this clock moving. We see the greater mechanism behind the events, the apparent events in front of us. And this is one of the things that I love about my work is that I get to give people perspective and help guide, whether it's through an individual session with me or whether it's through the group community mentorship program, or whether it's through an interview like this. I get to share the greater perspective with you so that you can understand your place in the events around you. I was actually telling Shayla just before we began how if I didn't know astrology, I'm gonna tell you a secret, I'd probably be going crazy. Oh my God, what's happening? So I get it. I get it. It's a lot of energies. It's very intense. But when you get to zoom out and see the greater picture, it starts to make sense. It gives you a peace, a greater peace. You have the timing of when things begin, when they end, when they shift, and you're able to navigate that situation with more maturity, more clarity. more evolution.
Absolutely. Now, the time that we're in your opinion, what kind of shifts or transformations can we expect as a result of
Mm.
this event and all of the other astrological things that are happening? And also, how might we redefine, or how might that help us to
Mm.
redefine our individual paths?
Thank you. Thank you, Shayla. Beautiful question. So when when we zoom out, I mean, there is no ending. So we can keep zooming out as far as we want to go and go way, 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 way beyond this timeline, even, and we can just keep going. But if we zoom out far enough and long enough, we see that the greater picture of everything is that we are moving from ages, from one age to another age. And without getting into too many details on this show, I believe we talked about this on the last show we did
Yeah,
together
we
last
did.
year. So this is one of the big picture is that we are shifting ages. So with that, you can think of it as the filter through which we see reality is shifting. And all you have to do is think about periods of history where people thought certain ways and behaved in certain ways and dressed in certain ways, and the culture was completely different. And that's all you have to do to understand that we're having one of those shifts. Okay. So we have those periodically, and astrologically, it not only can be, but it is mapped. It is mapped by many astrological cultures. So it's a very, very important thing to know that these are mathematically calculated, and they have to do with the progression of our evolution. Okay. So this is beyond good or bad, right or wrong. This is about evolution. It's about growth. It's about awareness. So in these stages of evolution that we go through, we shift the way that we see life, the way that we behave, the way that we interact with life, the rules that we create, the beliefs that we hold as our truth, they shift. So we're going through one of those really, really, really big ones. And we're shifting from the age of Pisces. So this is the lens of Pisces into the lens and the filter of Aquarius. And Aquarius is a totally different paradigm. This is where the future really comes into the picture. Aquarius is associated with the future and anything that is related to the future. So that involves a lot of innovative thinking. It involves a lot of genius. There is an increase, an expansion in the intellect and the faculties of the mind. But more than the mind, because Aquarius is the most intellectual of all the signs of the zodiac, it represents the most capacity to think. And it is associated with science. It is associated with breakthroughs. It is associated with the genius mind. But more than the mind, this is about the awakening. Look at the word awakening. That's why this word has been slowly coming into our vocabulary more and more. Aquarius is about awakening awareness and being aware of the web of life. That is why we go through these transitions through a period of time. It's never overnight. And this is why we've been introduced recently to the internet. The internet has been a pivotal point for this Aquarius filter to come through. And so we start to realize that we are not alone. We start to realize that we really are more connected than we thought we were. And the exciting thing is that because this has to do with awareness, because this has to do with interconnectedness, I hope I said it right, interconnectedness, and it has to do with the future, we are also looking, because I know this is a big topic of interest for many people, We are looking at a paradigm where we can now start opening up to the cosmic family. That means aliens. That means whatever word you want to give it, ETs, life in other planets, life in other dimensions, actually, that we are really entering into this reality that we've always associated with the future. That's why we've had so many movies and, things that are naturally pulling our curiosity and our awareness to the future. We've been paving the way for that. So Aquarius, and there's a lot more to Aquarius too, but Aquarius ultimately is about the future. And it is, technology is coming into the picture to help us with that. This is where, when we're looking at the big picture, we need to understand that, at this phase, we're very much like children. And it's pivotal for us to walk into this beginning of this path with technology with as much awareness as we possibly can, because technology is coming to help us raise our awareness. Remember, Aquarius is about awareness. So we have to be very mindful, because if we give our power to technology, they're going to keep going really fast, with or without us, right? And this is about rising together. Technology is coming in as our awareness rises. And ultimately, this really will be a reality where those that can sustain that level of awareness and interact with reality in that way, not from a complacent, pressing buttons and calling on robots type of awareness. I'm talking about galactic awareness. This is where those of us are going to rise with this new age. And honestly, the rest, this is where we have time to help us ease into the process, because not everybody is choosing to go into this new reality in this way. So it's very important that we allow our awareness to rise to meet this new reality. And that also means work with the body, work with all of who you are in a new and radical way, so that you can step into this new paradigm that is here at our door. And so this is going to start happening very fast. We are going to start to see a lot of shifts in society that are coming in. And this is what the bigger picture is about. I'm just the messenger, as I always say.
That's awesome. And I love that. I have a question. The upcoming solar eclipse. Now, we've had eclipses, many eclipses before. What makes this one so special?
Yeah. I love what did you say to me in the beginning when we were getting set up? You said eclipses nowadays are not just eclipses.
They're just not eclipses anymore. They're jam-packed with all of this astrological cycle information
Oh my
and
God, it's
celestial
so I
alignments.
had to laugh at that, because I always start my eclipse talks by saying we have many eclipses every year. It's not a big deal. We have So when you said that, I just had to laugh, because it's true. You're right. Eclipses nowadays are not just eclipses. They really come with a lot.
Yes.
Eclipses, they are meant to stir a lot of energies, and they are energies that have to do with, here goes the word again, our evolution. So eclipses are new moons and full moons. Most, if not all, people know what that is. New moons and full moons that happen in a very specific place of the zodiac where the lunar nodes are at. And the lunar nodes in astrology, they have to do with evolution. The south node has to do with where you're coming from. So this is literally your door of exit from the other life and entrance into this life. That's the south node. And the north node is the door that you're heading into in this lifetime. And it really determines your path and your purpose in this life. So this is above and beyond who you marry or what you do for work or where you live. This is a lifestyle. It's a quality of energies. So the new moons and full moons that happen near the lunar nodes, about 4 a year, usually 2 in the beginning and 2 towards the end. These are very powerful windows for our evolution to speed up. So the events that happen around eclipses are known for being very intense. And that's why when we're looking at an eclipse season, which is a new moon and a full moon, like we are right now at, we're coming from the lunar eclipse, which was a full moon on March 25th, and we're now entering into the new moon, which is going to be the solar eclipse, and that creates the season of the eclipses. And this whole month around it is very, 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 very intense. And the experiences are very heightened. So, every single pair of eclipses, so for example, in this pair, the last one being on March 25th, the lunar eclipse in Libra, and then the opposite, which is Aries, these pair of eclipses, each one has a specific message. And this pair of eclipses, they hold very strong evolutionary messages for all of us that has to do with the letting go of codependent relationships and behaviors and stepping into a new paradigm of self. If you sit with that for a minute and really feel into what that could mean for you at this point of your life, the message is you are being called to give birth to something new. The sign of Aries, which is where this next eclipse is happening in, is the number one sign of the zodiac. It's where the energies begin. So Aries is associated with new beginnings. Aries is associated with new life. There is a certain level of excitement in the energies of Aries. And we all have Aries in our charts. Now, maybe some people have an Aries sun. Other people may have an Aries moon or an ascendant, or maybe another planet of the zodiac. But everybody, every single chart on this planet has the sign of Aries. As a matter of fact, the signs, they are what embrace the wheel. So we have all 12 signs surrounding our astrological charts, all of us. So when these energies come in, they are impacting all of us in a different way. So we're all receiving this energy of Aries that has to do with new beginnings, with bravery, with courage, with action. And the reason why this is coming in at this point is because we are at a very pivotal stage of this transition. And, to me, from an astrological perspective, we are always going through a transition. There's always some transition that we're going through. Life is about evolution, so we're always moving. But just for the sake of the topic tonight, let's stick to the big transition, the great transition. So this is the transition of cycles that I'm talking about. And let's just say that around 2020 was when this particular stage of the transition began, which is the big halt to our reality. Big halt. We're done with that chapter. So let's just say that around 2020 was when this stage began. We would say that today, not only in 2024, but most especially in this spring equinox gateway and through this solar eclipse in Aries, it's culminating into this eclipse in Aries, we're now crossing phase 1 and going into phase 2. This is why this particular eclipse is so big and so important. It's one of the reasons why. So up until now, since 2020, our realities have been coming undone. Now, this is part of a much deeper process because we are releasing our concept and our experience with karma that has shifted drastically in these last few years. So we won't live by that paradigm anymore. But what happens is that up until now, and especially 2022 and 2023, they were pivotal years for cleaning the slates. This is where we were balancing and evening the scales of all of our lifetimes. This was big, 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 big. There was so much going on. Lifetimes of purging, of settling accounts with many people that we knew, past lives, other dimensions, other lifetimes. There was a massive evening of the scales happening, especially in 2022 and 2023. And now we are crossing the threshold into what's next. We've evened the scales. We've cleared so much of that karma. We're able to wipe all that clean so that we can now move into the next stage of life as we know it. So this is huge in and of itself. This is incredibly huge, incredibly huge. So what's happening now is that in the next stage, and you can look at this as a period of, again, about another 3 to 4 years, we're going to go through the second stage of what that means. And this period is where we start to see the physical manifestations of things breaking down and shifting before our eyes. Many structures of the government, of society, the way things are run, the laws, the way that our reality has been built upon, it's going to start to shift in these next 3 to 4 years. So that by the end of this decade, we're going to be well underway in this transition and ready to step into the next stage of innovation, aliens, technology. All of that is going to be coming into our reality very, very, very fast by the end of the decade. It really is a new stage of consciousness that's coming in. So as we embody this new stage of consciousness, the old doesn't make sense anymore. So we just start to refuse it, and we start to, that doesn't make sense anymore. I'm not attracted to that anymore. I don't have the desire for those things anymore. So this place where we're in right now is very pivotal, because when I, as an astrologer, I zoom out, I get so excited because I see the future right here at our doorstep. But most people in the world don't see that yet. They're still catching up. They're still catching their breath, and still, many people are still asking what's going on. So that's where a lot of the agitation comes in as well. We anticipate and we feel that something is going to shift. Things can't keep going the way they have been. As a matter of fact, this whole next year is going to be very strong about the illusions falling, the masks falling. There's going to be a lot of veils that are just going to be lifting or falling, and lots of reality checks that is going to be happening due to that. A lot of truth being revealed in the next year and 2. That's going to be pivotal for our concept of truth to start to shift. So, for example, the things that we've been taught in school, we're going to start to not only see, but experience that they are not quite like that. There actually is a different history than the history we've been taught, for example. So things like that. And so when you get one of those and you say, wait a minute, it wasn't like this that it happened. It was actually like this. And this was also happening at the time. But what does that mean for this? And what does that mean about the way that I saw that, or the way that I live my life, or the way that I view relationships? It's like, oh my gosh, I have to recreate my entire identity. And as a matter of fact, we're recreating our entire reality. Our governments need to be and will be recreated. But this is going to happen at the rate that we allow our consciousness to ride with this and to really accept this and embody this and go with it. Because the more we resist, the more difficult it's going to be for us. So this particular eclipse is not only highlighting the transition into the second stage, But because we are preparing for a new reality, we have to come to terms with the fact that we are new people. We are being born again. We are being given new identities. So much so that, I mean, I'm a counselor, I'm an astrologer. I'm blessed to speak with hundreds of people all the time looking at their charts. And the theme is the same anywhere on the globe. People have been going through a death process of not being able to associate themselves anymore with their previous life or desires or even relationships. So many things have been just coming undone. And it has been a very difficult process for a lot of people. But the beauty of this process is that there is no ending. Okay. There is no beginning. There is no end. There is only shift. There is metamorphosis into what's next. So at this stage right now, we're all asking ourselves, what's next? Feel into that.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is where Aries comes in. Remember, Aries is the new beginning. Aries is the new life that is ready to be birthed. And so there is, when I look at the bigger picture of these next 2 to 3 years, there is a new batch of leaders that are going to be rising on this planet. Leaders on every field of life. So there's room for all. But the invitation is open. Who's ready? Who's ready while the world is still catching their breath and picking up their pieces? Who's ready to raise their heads and see beyond the immediate chaos and look into the future and see, what are we as a humanity looking at next? Who's going to be the brave one or the brave ones to hear the call of the future and rise? So even now as we speak, there are those leaders that are preparing to rise on every front of our civilization. This is where society is going to start to shift very rapidly, and it's very exciting. But in order for us to listen to the future, we have to make peace with what has been instead of fighting or trying to hold on to that, identity, or trying to fight our way with someone who doesn't see eye to eye with us. It's a waste of time and energy. Let it go. Let the things and the people that are naturally leaving your life to do so. Don't try to fight your way through or hold on to things or hold on to opinions or ideas. It's just a waste of time. It's the small perspective. Be aware enough to take a deep breath, a breath of life, of the future, and go within yourself, because this is what the Aries eclipse is about. It's about your autonomy, your sovereignty, and your freedom. And this is not dependent on the other person next to you, or the others next to you, or even the world. This is really an individual path now of rebirth that you are ready for. So the Aries eclipse is happening together with Chiron. I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's conjunct Chiron. And Chiron in astrology has a nickname of being the wounded healer. And Chiron is actually very associated with medicine and with health, very much so. It's one of the primary focuses of Chiron. That's also where we get the word, for example, chiropractor from. Chiron is very associated with the healing arts and the sciences of healing as well. But Chiron its essence is very metaphysical. And the language of Chiron is compassion. This is why Chiron gets his nickname of the wounded healer. He, in his mythology, he was wounded most, if not all, of his life. And it also speaks of the wound that we carry, but not the wound in the shadow, which is the wound that is like, I can't do anything because I'm sick, or I don't know how to, I can't walk, my legs are not, it's not that type of wound. It's the wound that, for example, allows yourself to discover the medicine for that wound, because you know what it's like to have the wound. And so you have the compassion to help other people with that wound. So this is where so many of us have taken paths of a healer, because we ourselves began with a journey of needing healing and having an illness. And so this is where Chiron comes in the picture, and he actually becomes a master healer and a master teacher. But when Chiron is opening our wounds, which is what's happening at this eclipse as well, it's merely to show us, to communicate to us. Pay attention. There's a message there for you. There's a path there for you. And he wants you to listen. So Chiron is very highlighted at this new moon solar eclipse in Aries. And this is the wound that we all carry, both collectively and individually as well. You may notice your wounds coming out during this time. You feeling extra vulnerable, extra sensitive, or as if people are not understanding you or hearing you or working with you. And there is a lot of a feeling of inferiority complex that comes with Chiron, especially when Chiron is in its maturity phase. So really feel into any events in your life that may be bringing these emotions from you of not feeling good enough, or feeling wounded, or feeling just really tired of having to deal with certain emotions and certain experiences. So this is coming up for all of us so that we can go through a purification of ourselves and our visions as we move forward. Remember, the old, we have closed the door, okay? We have closed the door to all of those karmic cycles, all of those karmic paths that we've been working through for lifetimes. We have closed the door to that, and now we are ready to look into the future. But this sweet spot where we're at, it's like literally in the middle. So we're just like, wait, are you serious? I don't have to do that again? Are really, I can look here? Are you sure? So it's unknown territory for us in many ways. And so a lot of us, we're getting used to how to step into this new paradigm of bravery, of sovereignty, of confidence, without having to fight our way through, without having to preserve anything. This is not about survival anymore. This is really about understanding our power. And so that's what the Aries solar eclipse conjunct Chiron represents for us at this time.
That's awesome. Now, I have a question. You have provided us with so much information to digest. Are there any practical steps or practices that we can engage in order to align ourselves with the energies that are coming in and this transformational process?
Yes, of course. I am happy to share 3 practices that I have for you that are going to help you during this transition process and the eclipses and the rest of 2024. So, yes, we can take a nice long deep breath now and just allow all this information to gently settle into our bodies and our awareness. And you don't have to understand it all. You don't have to make sense of it all and have it all figured out or have a map for it all. Let it all go. I'm known for giving overloads of information. People call my talks downloads because there are downloads of information. But it really is the part of the process of awakening. So you don't need to understand it all consciously, but your cells understand, and it makes sense on a very deep level. And so you can allow that to expand and open and to just Trust that the intelligence of your body will process it in its own time, in its own way. You're not missing out on anything. You don't have to have it all figured out now, but you can relax into this moment. And you can be aware of your experiences at this moment, your reality, whatever that is. Maybe you're thinking about your work. Maybe others are thinking about their home, their family, or personal life and personal events. Maybe others are thinking about their purpose moving forward. Whatever it is that your experience is right now and the prominent events, be they good or bad, whatever events are prominent in your life right now, I want you to acknowledge them, notice them. And here are 3 practices that I'm going to leave you with that are going to help you navigate these moments, your experiences, as you continue to go through this transition. Because there are many exciting things up ahead. The next 2 months, the months of May and June, are going to be extremely exciting. Lots of energies speeding things up for us. Many people are going to be having aha moments and, just epiphanies and speeding along into the next stage of their purpose. So there are many exciting events coming up in the next couple months. And so as you navigate through these months and even toward the rest of the year, which are going to have very big months as well, know that you have these 3 practices to go to when you need it. Now, these practices are especially based on the solar eclipse in Aries and with the energies that I spoke of. Aries conjunct Chiron, the healer. And whenever a situation happens around you or with you that leaves you feeling agitated, because remember, we are opening Chiron, we are opening wounds, we are opening points of vulnerability that we may feel. So the step number 1 in the first practice, and this is very simple in the sense that you can do this one anywhere at any time. Breathe. Now, you're not going to just breathe, because that is one thing you can do. And you can just literally take a big inhale and then a big exhale. And you will see that this will already help a lot. But what I want you to breathe is to breathe in and out your experience. Whatever that experience is, you can maybe get right now, if you want to practice, one of the experiences that you are thinking about or feeling into or remembering, bring it in and just be surrounded by that energy, all above, below, around you. And now I want you to take a big breath in, breathing in the experience all the way through. And it may take a little bit of a practice, and then all the way through down. And for some people, it may take a little bit of a practice in the beginning, but eventually what you want is you want your experience to go all the way through and then all the way through back down. Because by doing this, I started doing this particular practice when I noticed that not only my breathing would get more shallow, but also the energy would just kind of stop in my body of certain events in the past when I would go through extreme events. So you don't want that energy stuck in your body, because then it's going to manifest itself as disease and it's going to be a much harder process to deal with it. So you actually, and you don't want to deny the experience either. So by breathing it, you're allowing it to be just as it is, but you're also not letting it stagnate in your body. So that's the first practice. Breathe in all the way through and then out all the way through. And you do this as many times as you want. And then all the way out. And you keep doing this like a wave washing over you. And you can imagine water coming in as well. And you don't even need to get your emotions or your ideas involved in your situation. Just breathe the energy in and out. And you do this a few times until you feel like the energy is circulating. Again, you're not denying it, you're not ignoring it, you're just not necessarily giving it any emotion or meaning, because that's when it gets stuck in your body, and you're just working with the energy. Okay. And once you feel comfortable enough to just be present with the experience, the next tip will be for you to get a pen and a paper, or you can do it without a pen and a paper, but sometimes, journaling can really help us go deeper. And you write, what emotion is that bringing from within you? What is that experience bringing up emotionally for you? And again, this is not about the person. This is not about any judgment of the situation. You are not speaking about the story. This is not about the event. This is not about the story. This is about how that is making you feel. What are the emotions that are coming up for you during that time? And together with that, what is your belief around it? What is the belief that is coming through with the emotion? And just that in and of itself is so much food for thought, food for meditation, contemplation, because you're going to start to see where the root cause of that experience is coming for you. And these are things that, remember, the past is we're done with the past. So you don't need to be in that loop anymore. You're ready to be free from that. So just by being able to detect the emotion and the belief associated with that, you are setting yourself free. It's so liberating, so beautiful. And finally, this is the bigger picture now. This is where you, after doing these two, you are then going to ask yourself, what is this situation really showing me right now? Maybe for some of you, it will be, okay, you're done with feeling not good enough for whatever it is that you may be feeling. You're done with that. And then you being aware, writing it on your piece of paper, okay, that's done. I don't need to feel that anymore. So that's what the situation was about. But for many other people, that situation is actually communicating something to you. Maybe it's pointing you in a different direction. Maybe it's asking you to let go of control over a situation and just surrender, back off. Maybe it involves a relationship. And this is the time for you to go within and focus on your autonomy and your sovereignty, your voice, your emotions, your path. So what is that situation showing you about your path? Be open enough to notice which doors are naturally wanting to close in front of you and which doors may be wanting to open to you next. Because at the end of the day, this is about your future. This is about a new way of doing things. If one path is not working for you anymore, maybe it's because it's time to look at a new path, a new way of living your life, or even following the current path that you're in, but maybe a new way of doing it. So that's why the doors may be closing. That's why certain paradigms are just not working anymore. And so it will require a level of honesty with yourself. And that's why going through the breathing first, and then, surrendering to the deeper emotions that, taking responsibility for what they are showing you and where they're coming from, is going to help then pave the way for true, honest contemplation on what is happening with you. Why is the situation, what is the situation communicating with you? And when you can let go of your ideas of trying to hold on to something or hold on to a belief or hold on to a lifestyle or a relationship that naturally wants to change, you can then release yourself into the future, into the next stage of your purpose and your evolution.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I want to share with you a comment from one of our YouTube watchers. This is from Barbara, and she wants to thank you for your gentle words. You know, there's so much rhetoric, literally, out on the internet about, you know, what's happening astrologically. From doom and destruction to shifting paradigms to you name it. And so, what you have brought to us tonight is a real practical view of the overall and how it comes down and pinpoints and how we as a human society are able to anchor that energy into our bodies. And Patty has a question, and he wants to know, for those people who are not able to directly see the eclipse, will they be at a disadvantage or will they still receive the benefits of this cycle?
Oh, absolutely. I can guarantee that every single chart on this planet will experience the energies of the eclipse. This is happening more than anything, it's cosmically. So it's not even about the location that you're in or if you're looking at it or not, but you will receive the energies for sure. Now, astrologically, when we look at your chart, we can determine which parts of your life are more closely associated with the eclipse. So by studying your individual chart in relationship to the eclipse charts, we can see how this eclipse is going to affect you or impact you or what it's asking from you next specifically. But everybody will feel it. And it's not about, you know, there is something to be said about actually using your senses and connecting your visual, you know, sense with the light that is coming in, or should I say, in this case, the lack of light, the solar eclipse. But, and it does add a factor of being able to connect with it for sure, but it's not the wherewithal. And for me as an astrologer, I can say that above anything, it really is about the placements of your natal chart in relationship to the eclipse that are going to determine how much you feel this eclipse.
So, for people who are interested in finding out that type of information and they would like to work with you, how is the best way to get in touch with you?
You know, so if you go to my website, it's my name, Raquel Spring. So it's RAQUEL Spring, SPRING, not plural, singular.com. So raquelspring.com. There are so many ways to work with me there, all the way from the community where we have the deep dives together to look at the energies. We're actually having a deep dive this Saturday to go in the eclipse energies. But then there's also the one-on-ones where I study your individual chart and I'm able to tell you, I'm able to pinpoint so much about who you are, your purpose here, and your purpose in the future moving forward, and then tie it in with the dates and the astrological events that are coming next as well. So this is your personal deep dive. There are also opportunities to have free community gatherings every full moon. We have free community gatherings on the day of the full moon. I also have a podcast where it's weekly. Every week there's a new pod. So there's like so many ways to work with me. If you just go to my website, raquelspring.com, you can choose how you would like to work with me. And I am fully here to support you.
Beautiful. So we have another message. Just a moment. Ah, um, there's a message just addressing the Chiron and the wounded healer and thanking you for that information. I do want to ask if there's anyone right now that has a specific astrological question that they would like to ask Raquel. Anybody that's in our audience?
And while I can, oh, Patty is raising his hand.
Okay, hi Patty.
Hi, Patty.
Hi Sheila, hi Raquel. My question
Hi.
is, how important is it to know your exact time of birth when it comes to having an astrology
Yeah,
chart done?
it's pretty important. Now, it's not 100% necessary. We can still get a lot of information, but we can't see the full picture and all the details because it's like you can look at an astrology chart like a clock. And so, if you don't have the time of birth, it's just certain parts of the clock are not there, but you could still see the big picture of the clock. So it's the more accuracy you have with the place and the time of birth, the more we can pinpoint certain events. Okay. But there are many people that come for sessions without their time of birth and they get the bigger picture, which is still a lot. For example, in this talk that I gave you all, I'm doing a general big picture and look how in depth we went. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That's good.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Hi,
And
Jason.
Jason. Hi, Jason. Nice to meet
Hi,
you.
how are you?
Good. How are you? And thank you,
Good.
Patty. Thank you for that question.
No, I totally
Yes.
resonate with everything. I'm not an astrology expert like yourself. I'm more on the starseed side of things, but I do follow a lot of astrology things, and I've heard there's a lot of energies coming in even after the eclipse, leading
Yes.
all the way up through the fall with Jupiter. We're going back to what we had in December 2020. Just something interesting with my son. He's 8 years old, and it's hard to believe. Well, I had a vision about this that he and his mother were going to have the same birthday, and they did. And it's April 16th, so he's an Aries. And
Wow.
lately, he's been telling me he's been seeing a lot of like flashes of light and like what look like shadow people flying around. And he's also been having what he calls dreams, seeing a lot of ETs in his dreams, if you will.
Wow.
And this is so weird. At least him, my time, I don't know when I was born. Obviously, I know my date, but I know his time. And the
Mhm.
time that he was born was the last four digits of his mother's phone number,
Wow.
which is pretty crazy. And he's mixed race. You know, he comes from his mother's from Antigua, and I have a lot of European Viking background, so he's very diverse culturally.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think
Amazing.
this is going to be big time for him. And for me
Yes.
personally, I'm going to be spending a lot of time meditating on Monday. I live in Little Niagara, Ontario, and I don't know if you've heard about it, but we've declared a state of emergency. There's expected almost 500,000 to 1 million people starting to pour in here on Friday. And I just saw a weather eclipse that we might not even get to see the eclipse. So
Yeah.
these poor people have been paying like $1,000 a night for a hotel out here.
Mm.
And I guess the last question I want to ask, I guess you've heard about CERN and the three Egyptian named god rockets that NASA's firing at the eclipse.
No, I didn't hear.
Yeah, so that's been making a huge buzz. You can look this up. So CERN, it's been offline for 2 years, and they're turning it back on during the eclipse. And NASA's firing three rockets named after Egyptian gods, one of them being the serpent god. They claim to study dark matter. So I don't know. And I've been hearing a
Okay.
lot of reports not to physically watch the eclipse, even with glasses. They're going to try and maybe do some sort of bamboozle thing like with the Super Bowl. I didn't even watch
Yeah.
that this year. I like that's why I said I'm going to be meditating to a lot of solfeggio frequencies and
Yes.
things like that.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Jason.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Thank
It was
you.
Jason.
nice to meet you.
You
And
too, and
I feel like
maybe
my
I'll send you an
last.
email.
Yeah. Yeah. You can go to my website and see what's the best way to work with me. I would be so happy to see you there for sure. And I'd love to address those questions that you brought up. So I'm going to just start by saying a few words about your son and your partner that you said were born in April, and they're Aries, right? And then I'm going to share a little bit about the other part that you said, the questions about CERN and the eclipse and all that, because I feel it's very general as well. And we can bring everybody to a beautiful closing moment here with this. As far as your son and your partner go, they are an Aries sun, and there are many people that may be watching that may also be an Aries sun, or maybe they have an Aries moon or Aries ascendant. Okay, so depending on what you have in your chart, you are going to feel this eclipse and these energies awakening in you very powerfully and in unique ways. Now, the suns, people that have a sun in Aries, the sun is a very important thing in astrology. It plays a very important role. So an eclipse that happens near an Aries sun, for example, in this case, is life shifting. It can correspond with life shifts, very significant turning points of their life. So your son may experience it in one way, your partner may experience it in another way, but they are turning points of their life. Okay. And I also want to add that your son is most likely, of course, tapping into other dimensions and communication from other dimensions that are simultaneously happening here. So he could also be tapping into very real contact that we already are having and will continue having even more with other species. So that is very likely that that's what's happening with him. And this will only become more and more a part of our reality. We will start to see more and more in the next few years, and then especially by the end of the decade, where news about space, discovering other planets, discovering this, discovering life, it's going to become more common. It's going to just be normal. And so, we're preparing for that. And everybody that has a chart, which is every single person and thing on this planet, as long as something or someone was birthed into life here, you have a chart. Even countries have charts. So all of us are having an influx of Aries inundate our reality and awaken us to a new beginning. The shadow of Aries, and this is where I'm going to answer to the rest of your question, the shadow of Aries is war. The shadow of Aries is defensiveness, aggression, self-preservation. Those qualities of Aries are the shadow of Aries. And because we are witnessing Chiron so prominent in this eclipse, there are a lot of people that are on automatic right now that are reacting rather than responding. And they're reacting to the events around them. And this is where we are seeing a lot of people that may be unnecessarily giving attention to dynamics that are the shadow of Aries. This is not about denying that it may or may not be true. This is not about arguing. Is this really happening? Is this not? It's not about hashing that. Remember, this is the small picture. You're limiting yourself if you are giving your attention to, remember, this is old stuff. It's old story, old agenda. By now, we all know the tactic of fear, the tactic of distracting people by creating a big event over here like the Holocaust to diverge people's attention of what's really happening on this side of the planet. Okay? So there are multiple realities happening. There are multiple truths that are unfolding right now. And it behooves us to choose where we're going to give our attention to, because our attention is power. Our attention is power. And even more than giving attention and power to the events outside of you, this is about really looking at inside of you. How are your emotions doing? How are you doing on a physical, on a spiritual level, and your health as well, to really prepare yourself for the next stage of events that are coming? This is the future. So yes, there will be, this is one of the shadow of Aries, there will be a lot of people hashing it out. There will be the aspects of self-preservation, of survival, of defending itself or attacking another. Yes, that is going to be extremely prevalent, but it's not the wherewithal. And it's not our future either. This is a small part of our transition. You can see a small group of people that are just kind of like running around like crazy on automatic, like, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? You want to be wise. Remember, this is about awareness. Aquarius is looking for awareness. Who are the people that are going to step outside of the swarm of the chaos and utilize their energies to look into the future? This is about finding our balance, finding our power. From this place, we find our partners, we find our communities, and we start to take the next step forward. It's very important because we are in the transition where a lot of things will break down. Remember, the veils are going to fall. We have to see the truth behind things that used to be a part of our reality. And so we have to be okay with this process, but not get lost in it. And yes, there will be a lot of fighting, a lot of quarreling, and all of that. That is not the wherewithal. We are going through a transition into freedom. And so we need to go through this process of waking up and seeing things for what they are, and then having the maturity and the awareness to choose where we're going to focus our energy and how we're going to take our next steps moving forward in spite of.
Nice.
This is what sovereignty and freedom are all about. So.
Beautiful. Thank you. Jason, I do want to address something real quick because I had an email today that was also mentioning the rockets that NASA is firing, and it had something to do with studying the ionosphere and how it's affected when light is momentarily dimmed over a portion of the planet. But that was just the one thing that came across my desk. There may be other things that's associated with it, but it is very interesting. So I appreciate your bringing that point up tonight as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Jason, because, your questions, I'm sure, were many other people's questions too. So you were speaking on behalf of many others. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. And Raquel, I want to thank you so much for being with us tonight. I love your passion and your knowledge of astrology. And do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave us with tonight?
Oh my goodness, I feel like I've shared so much already.
You have. You have. But I just wanted to give you
Yes.
a final opportunity if you have anything you want to wrap up or to share with us.
Yeah, this really is a time for us to find our new identity. We don't need to have it all figured out, but we need to know that this is the next stage of the transition. So this is where the first few glimpses of the new are ready to come in. Don't lose sight of that. The more that you are spending your energy worrying, quarreling, being anxious about something, the less time you are having to get to know this new identity of who you are. So learn about yourself. You are your greatest friend, your greatest lover, your greatest everything at this point. Get to know you on a core level, because you are your future. And this future is waiting for you. You are here for a reason. At this time, at this transition, you are here for a reason. So you didn't come this far to just get lost in the situations. And, this is not about survival anymore. This is, how I said before, this is a time for the new leaders to rise. Rise into your new self so you can help lead the way into the future.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
And thank you all for listening with an open heart. I know it's a lot of information. At the end, it's just like, zzz. So you could let this just integrate without having to make sense out of anything and just allow the intelligence of your body to continue receiving the energy as it's ready for. And if you would like to have a personal, in-depth look at your chart or understand more about the eclipse energies or about any of the energies that we spoke of, just reach out. I'm happy to help you. And thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you again. All right, everyone. You have been watching Raquel Spring on Cosmic Conversations right here on the Conscious Awakening Network. And remember, you can find Raquel at raquelspring.com. That's RAQUELSPRING.com. So until we're back together again next time, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Many blessings to you all, and namaste. Have a great eclipse, everyone. Much love.
Happy eclipse.